a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
And hello everyone and welcome to FBC Radio Live. It's February the 1st, 2021. It's Super Bowl week, folks, and we are ready to rock and roll. We've considered changing the name to Technical Difficulties because that's essentially what we have every single morning when we try to get this off and rolling. So we are fashionably late as always, but it's okay. We are here and we are ready to kick off a pretty eventful weekend or Monday when it comes to talking about what happened over the weekend and what's to come this week. But I want to start off the show by saying I want to give my co-host a little bit of credit. Yes, I know, folks. Surprise, surprise. I'm giving my co-host credit. But I think he had a bit of a slip on Friday. See, we talked about our favorite Royal Rumble events leading up to last night's Royal Rumble event in wherever it is, the Dome, and actually about 20 minutes, about 15 minutes from where I am right now down in St. Pete. But I also asked him on the spot, no, heads up about it. I asked him how many wrestlers have won the Royal Rumble twice. And very impressively, Mike was able to rattle off a majority of them. But I'm going to give him some extra credit because he mentioned someone who, at that point on Friday, had not won his second Royal Rumble. But at this point now has. And I think that was more of a prognostication of what was to come as opposed to a slip-up. So, Mike, my friend, first off, how are you? And well done.
I'm doing very well, buddy. I'm doing well. We're bracing for a pretty rough snowstorm here in the Northeast today. Anyone in the New England area knows that, we're bracing for Armageddon, which means that, probably like an inch or two here. But, and all kidding aside, it should be an eventful weather day here in the Northeast. But, the prognostication skills and that Belichickian crystal ball that I like to mention on Locked On Patriots. Maybe on Friday it was a McMahonian crystal ball, and I looked into it, and the rated R superstar with his second Royal Rumble victory. I'll be honest, I did not see the event yesterday, but apparently it's getting rave reviews. I looked on social media, and apparently this was one of the more entertaining and one of the more compelling Rumbles in quite some time. So congrats to the WWE on doing that, and congrats to Edge for doing that. Just the fact that this guy is back in a wrestling ring competing is remarkable, considering just a few years ago what he had to go through.
And for those who don't know, he was out of wrestling for 10 years. A lot of injuries obviously prevented him and forced him to retire. Neck injuries, things that obviously, with the advancements of medical technology and stuff like that, they've been able to reverse what had previously been career-ending injuries, not just in wrestling. I mean, think about it. 30 years ago, an ACL tear in the NFL was pretty much career doom at that point. You may be able to play a little bit longer, but for the most part, you're not you're not recovering as swiftly as most players do now. But in wrestling, it's the same thing. At one point, Shawn Michaels had to retire because of a back injury, and a rehab and surgeries fixed that, and this is what happened with Edge. And look, it's a great story. I mean, he obviously hails from the time, our prime of watching it, towards the end of our prime of watching wrestling, and we've spoken about that before. But again, he was great. I mean, there was a moment with him and Christian in the ring at the same time, which was pretty awesome. And for those again who are our age group and watched during the time that we watched, I always loved the Edge and Christian tag team. I was always a fan of kind of their. I just thought they were funny and hilarious, and in that whole era of the Dudleys, Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian, tables, ladders, and chairs, all that stuff. It's pretty incredible. And someone had posted a photo of the the pay-per-view promo photo of the tables, ladders, and chairs match from SummerSlam way back when. One of my favorite SummerSlams, and I'm sure we'll get to that later in the summer when we get closer to that event. But it's funny to not funny, I guess, but to look back and look at that just match and think about where all those guys careers went after that, because at the time those are just tag teams. You don't think much about that. Edge goes on to become a WWF champion and a WWE champion and all that other stuff. But it was great to see last night. I didn't see the whole event either, but I did catch the Rumble, and it was cool to see him. Not only that, but enter number 1 as well. So there you go. A couple notes to add to the Royal Rumble trivia if we ever get to it next year. So keep that in mind if I ask you the same question.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. I'll definitely have my prognostication skills sharpened up, ready to go. And, who knows? Maybe we'll do that like around WrestleMania time. Maybe I'll maybe I'll look into the McMahonian crystal ball. Damn it, I want that ball. So I mean that's going to be kind of what that'll be the voice that I'll use, and it'll be entertaining for a couple of people, and the rest of our listeners will probably choose to not tune in that day. But damn it, I am Vince McMahon.
No, we'll have a nice set of listeners. We got some wrestling fan listeners here as well, and pretty much someone who people who love Edge too, and other Vince McMahon things that you do. No, look, it was fun. I'm probably going to go back and watch the whole show, maybe put it on in the background today while I'm working. But it was fun to be able to see that, and I heard the Women's Royal Rumble was really well put together and really good as well. So I definitely want to check that out. But there's some other news this weekend, my friend, and it was rather big. It kind of killed two birds with one stone, and by that I mean it knocked off two potential quarterbacks that could be on the move. Well, they are on the move now. Matt Stafford is heading to Los Angeles, and Jared Goff is heading to Detroit. The Rams had to give up a boatload of picks in addition to Jared Goff to get Matt Stafford, but Matt Stafford is now in Los Angeles, and Jared Goff is going to get a chance to kind of revitalize his career in Detroit. So I'll ask you, who won the deal? I mean, we know we're never going to know a winner until their careers are over and we see how it plays out, but obviously we're talking about right now who came away in this immediate aftermath as the quote-unquote winner of this trade.
My friend, I'm going to walk the fine line. I'm going to say I think this was a win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
Look, bottom line, a lot of people are looking at it and saying Detroit absolutely fleeced Los Angeles in this trade. They got all these draft picks. They got an NFL-ready quarterback. They got everything they needed in return. Look, bottom line, the Detroit Lions had to deal away Matt Stafford. They bring in Jared Goff. They do have picks. People are saying Los Angeles will win this trade. They finally got a quarterback that can work with Sean McVay, someone that can work within his system. Great arm, all the potential in the world. But the Rams needed to up that ante in order to get out of Jared Goff's contract. That's what this boils down to. They were going to outbid whatever suitor was going to offer the best package for Matthew Stafford. They did that with Jared Goff. They needed to include him. They needed to include the 2 first-rounders. The pot still wasn't thick enough. They still had to sweeten the deal after that in order to get this done. And look, Los Angeles is in win-now mode. This puts them right in the thick of things for Super Bowl contention in the NFC. Does it make them the odds-on favorites? Absolutely not. I still think there are a lot of teams out there that can give it to the Rams and take it, to them this year. I fully, believe that Tampa Bay is going to be right back in the mix for a conference title. I think Green Bay will be back in the mix for a conference title. There are a lot of other teams out there that can compete as well, but the Rams are better equipped today than they were just a few weeks ago to compete for that division title. For Matthew Stafford, big-time bullseye on his back. We've heard from the Stafford camp, through back channels or whatever you want to call them. It came from the Stafford camp that this guy was wasting his talents in Detroit. He didn't have the spotlight. He didn't have the players around him. He didn't have the coaching staff. No more excuses for Matthew Stafford. He's got the spotlight. He's got the coach. He's got the players around him. This is the opportunity for him to shine. We're going to see what Matthew Stafford is made out of. I think he can live up to the challenge, but ultimately it's going to be on his shoulders. Can he do it? Can he take the attitude he's been carrying around with him for the last few years in Detroit, sulking, being upset, whatever you want to call it? He doesn't have that excuse now in Los Angeles. It's time to put up or it's
Mm-hmm.
time to shut up and see what you can do. For Jared Goff, this is an opportunity for him to start over. He felt, especially the last couple of years, that Los Angeles wasn't buying into him, that they didn't appreciate him, that he wasn't the quarterback that everybody thought he was a couple of years ago. I think that's the Tom Brady and New England Patriots effect. It does have an effect on quarterbacks. But bottom line is, Jared Goff is going to have to perform now as well, even though the expectations on him are going to be very low. I don't think anyone's expecting Detroit to be a contender this year, but this is an opportunity for him to rejuvenate with a new coach, new style, new beginnings. We'll see what he's made out of as well. So both sides, I think, got what they needed out of this deal. Los Angeles gave up a ton, but they had no choice. They had to get out of that contract. That Goff contract was an albatross.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, I'm not going to go as far as giving, and I've seen some people do this, giving the Rams credit for their creative team building. No, they fell ass backwards into this opportunity. Let's be clear about this. They were able to bail themselves out a bit when a all-pro cornerback became available. An all-pro cornerback whose value is probably at its absolute lowest based on the immediate play around the time of the trade. This wasn't Jalen Ramsey 2018 peak, best cornerback in the league. He was still a top-tier cornerback, but the Rams were able to get a great player out of that trade, and those players aren't always available. So throwing away draft picks in that trade, that was mitigated by getting a great player. They are once again, I'm not saying throwing away draft picks, because yes, I agree with you. This was a good trade for them because it helped get them out of a hole that they dug themselves by giving Jared Goff that money, by giving away draft picks, by giving Brandon Cooks money and then trading him away, and by giving Todd Gurley a whole bunch of money and then, he not being on the roster anymore. So given the circumstances, if you forget everything that happened to bring the Rams to the point, this is a great move for the Rams. But I'm not about to absolve them from their poor team building philosophies in order to give them a whole bunch of credit for this. In this situation, I think the Lions were, they weren't going, it wasn't going to be a good situation for them if they kept Matt Stafford. I mean, at this point, at some point, you just have to move on. And I think this is the situation that needed to happen for the Lions and for Matt Stafford. If Matt Stafford's going to have an opportunity to go be successful, he was probably going to have to go do it elsewhere. For Jared Goff, the pressure of being in Los Angeles is no longer there. The pressure of performing, I don't know, trying to overcome the failures of the Super Bowl in Los Angeles are no longer there, and it takes a lot of pressure off of him. So hopefully, if you're Jared Goff, this is a good opportunity for them to basically just revitalize what you're trying to do, because he's still young. So this does have some rippling effect, because this offseason there's a lot of quarterbacks. One, if you saw the report today, Los Angeles reportedly called and asked about Aaron Rodgers. They were pretty much told no, that's not happening. So I think that can be said for pretty much anyone who might call and ask about Aaron Rodgers. They're probably going to get a big no. When it comes to other teams, specifically the Patriots, and this is something we talked about, I believe, not last week, but the week before, about who's ultimately going to be the starter for New England. I think we both landed on Cam Newton, and that may come as a surprise, but this is kind of playing into it. I mean, Matt Stafford was the hot name for a couple minutes, but now it's, now obviously it's become not about Matt Stafford, obviously, because Matt Stafford is in Los Angeles, and who else is available for the Patriots that is going to represent an upgrade, or at least the potential of an upgrade, without, again, starting from scratch. And I think our case kind of centered around that. Why go back to the drawing board at quarterback unless you're getting a guy like Aaron Rodgers or a guy like, again, a top tier quarterback in this league. And look, that's not going to happen. I think we both feel that given a legitimate offseason and after having a full year under his belt, I think Cam Newton will be better. I think this team in general will be better. And look, they have a lot of opportunity to put pieces around Cam Newton, who, despite limitations in the passing game, did still show you things in the running game, and I think you can build off of that, especially when you have some better players around him. So I know you've taken some slack as of late because of this very opinion, and I'm gonna say, buddy, hang in there, because you're gonna be right, I'm gonna be right, and it'll just be another day in a calendar year.
Well, the whole thing in a nutshell is you know what you've got. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, do you really want to take the chance on having Fitzpatrick come in, Ryan Fitzpatrick meaning, for a stopgap year when Cam Newton has a year in the system? Now, bottom line, the Patriots know better than anybody else. People can throw, I've seen GIF files being thrown all around, all over the place this weekend. Clips, things that, obviously the bounce pass against the Buffalo Bills is a common one that I'm seeing thrown around a lot amongst the fan base that really has it in for Cam Newton. Look, the Patriots see this guy in practice. They see what he's capable of more than anybody else. If they feel that they're better off going with Cam than going with another also ran option, that's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to be correct in that assessment. If they decide that Cam just doesn't have it anymore and he doesn't have the physical wherewithal and the buildup to be able to withstand a 16-game season, let's not forget it's going to have OTAs this year. They're going to have training camp. Everybody is saying that's going to be a plus for Cam Newton. Could end up working against him. That's extra wear and tear on the body, maybe, that he doesn't need at this point. If the Patriots decide they've seen enough of Cam in practice, they know what he's capable of, he limped toward the end of the season, is he going to be capable of leading this team for a full year? If they decide to cut bait with him, they'll be making the correct decision simply because they know him better than anybody else. What are your options out there? You saw what Stafford was able to command on the market in terms of trade, albeit Los Angeles had to overpay for him, and they were going to overpay for him to get out of that contract. They knew Houston wasn't going to do it, so why not try with Detroit? And Detroit ended up taking that deal for them. Deshaun Watson is not coming to New England. There is virtually a 0.01% chance that happens, and the only reason why I'm giving it that is because Deshaun hasn't been traded anywhere else yet. So as long as the opportunity is open, you can't completely close the book, but trust me, folks, that book is closed. It's relatively closed.
I'd be happy to be wrong about it. I mean, but see, that's not an indictment on Cam Newton. It's just, I like Cam. I've said it before. I guess admiration, or at least respect, for him as a player grew. Not that I had none for him before. I just didn't know him as intimately as fans of the Panthers had. You know what I mean? And that's the case with most players. If you're not a fan of a certain team, you don't, naturally don't spend enough time. But, his impact within the locker room was clearly positive. We saw Devin McCourty make a comment the other day saying that, hey, he'd love to see Cam Newton back. So, the move would be certainly popular within the locker room. And look, we talked about it before, and I don't want to spend too much time on the Patriots because I do want to talk about a few other things. Actually, one other thing is Patriots related, but it's a different subject.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah,
we'll
get to that. We'll get to that. But these players obviously respect him, and I think it would be a popular move within the locker room. And we know I think we learned more about what the team thought about Jarrett Stidham last year than what they thought about Cam Newton. Is what I'm thinking, because the fact that Stidham didn't get that much of an opportunity, I think, tells me enough about what I need to know about Jarrett Stidham. And again, I could be wrong about that. I've been wrong about a lot of things, but we'll see how that plays out. But New England fans, do not be surprised if Cam Newton is the starting quarterback of the Patriots come week 1 this September.
Yeah, so. And let's just say, conversation for another day. There are some roadblocks toward a Jimmy Garoppolo reunion in
look,
San
I don't
Francisco.
want that.
For
I don't
everybody,
want it. I don't want it.
For everybody
pass.
that's talking about that, there are a lot of roadblocks. There are a lot that some of them have been detailed this weekend. Some of them I continue to learn. Again, conversation for another day, but I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in that either.
Forget the roadblocks. I don't care. I'm over it. I'm so over Jimmy Garoppolo. See, I was about ready to move on. Now I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant. I'm so over Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of Jimmy's coming back. Jimmy knows how to play. Jimmy knows how to win. I don't care. I don't care about Jimmy. Jimmy can stay in San Francisco or go elsewhere. I want nothing to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. If the Patriots are gonna go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo, just keep Cam Newton. Because again, I know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. I think we all know what he is. And it's not an insult to Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just, I don't understand this fan base's obsession with a guy who played 2.5 quarters. Like, I understand if you had it, Mike, because he's a Paisan. I understand. I get it. You are Paisans. There's a deep connection there. But outside of that, I don't understand what 2.5 quarters of decent football against the Cardinals and Dolphins means. I don't know. So I don't want to spend too much time about that because I do want to bring this up, Mike.
Jimmy isn't threatened by Ian's opinion, folks.
No. Trust me.
Touch Jimmy.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that's some off-season complaint, and by off-season that means next week. We can start rambling on about that in more detail, but February 1st. The first week in February for a very long time has been one of my favorite weeks of all time. Way back in the day. The very first Super Bowl played in February was won by, the New England Patriots, 2001. Obviously, the game was moved to February because of September 11th and the season being pushed over a week and all that stuff. So, but on this day, Mike, 6 years ago.
Second and goal. Baldwin sets up on the left. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Malcolm Butler, who almost made the phenomenal play that wound up in Percy's arms. There are flags on the field for a celebration.
Yes. The interception that bailed out Tom Brady in the offense, who had just given the defensive lead. I don't know. I can't keep track of the nonsense that some of these people spew on Twitter, but the point is one of the greatest plays, obviously in Patriots history, but in NFL history. If you want to sum up a cosmic shift in the NFL hierarchy down to one singular play, this is it. Seattle, in their second Super Bowl, all-time great defense, have all the looks of the next it thing. The New England Patriots and Tom Brady. It's been 10 years. 10 years. It's kind of like Edge. 10 years since they had won a Super Bowl. Having just looked at the fluke play down the sidelines, bringing back, memories of giant Super Bowl pasts, all of a sudden it comes down to one play. And look, I will admit I don't think I've ever had such a high-pitched scream in my life. I nearly put my fist through my ceiling. They were low ceilings. They weren't, anything to laugh at in my apartment at the time. But yeah, obviously Malcolm Butler, it ended a budding dynasty and essentially reignited the Patriots. Because from that point on, really, if you want to go back and really catch the ire of some Chiefs fans, you can say that the catalyst of this second run came in Week 4 that season against Kansas City, where they got walloped. But it was the catalyst for, you think we're done, we're not done, and right. The 4 Super Bowl and 3 wins later, the Patriots obviously were still around. And look, Tom Brady, individually, is still around because he is now including that Super Bowl in his 5th in the last 7 years. So great memory for us as Patriots fans, and certainly one that will always live in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, you want to talk about the pendulum swinging back and forth. I mean, Kurtz's catch was just an absolute, it was gutter. It was just gutting. I mean, automatically it brought back Manningham. It brought back David Tyree, and you're like, oh man, here we go. This is it. This is what the Patriots are now going to be. It's going to be they had it in their hands and they let it slip away again. And Malcolm Butler coming up with the huge interception. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that was probably one of the biggest highs in Patriots fans' history, in Patriots lore, because it was literally snatching victory from the hands of defeat. And I say that literally. I mean, that's exactly what Malcolm Butler did by intercepting that pass. It was a surefire victory for the Seattle Seahawks. Malcolm Butler heads up for a play that they practice. I don't want to hear all this stuff about, he's just in the right place at the right time. They didn't run the ball and put all the credit on that or all the blame on that on Seattle. Give Malcolm Butler and the New England Patriots an awful lot of credit. They practiced that play. They knew there was going to be an opportunity for them to use it at some point in the season. Just so happened it came in the biggest moment on the biggest stage, and they did it. And it's, to me, one of the greatest Super Bowl moments in history. It still amazes me that it continues to be ranked low on the totem pole when it comes to the top 10 being in the bottom half of the top 10. I still don't understand how that's not the best Super Bowl play of all time.
Why didn't you say I was on mute, Mike? Here I am yammering on. It took Joel telling me I was on mute to let me know my mic wasn't on. Come on, Mike. Get on top of that.
Because I didn't see the mute slash through your microphone.
Yeah,
so
but
I'm sitting there thinking it was my problem.
I'm muted on my actual microphone. See, that's where I mute myself. Yes.
See, that's it. See, I'm looking through Zoom,
man.
and I can't tell that for you. Yeah. See, this is these are the times that try men's souls, folks. It's definitely difficult. And I was saying I did go hello a couple of times, but I don't think my microphone came through. So I don't know. We're all a mess this morning for you folks, but thank you for hanging in there with us.
Well, anyways, I'm going to try to recapture what I said. I really don't know. I don't remember because now I completely lost where I was. I'm sure it was a fantastic point that I was making, but the win, the moment, it speaks to how great the Patriots have been, that there's so many of them. That one would be at the top, of course. Just as it was anything. But I think what I said, and I might have been cut off at this point. But if you remember correctly, the play of the year that year at the ESPYs went to Odell Beckham Jr. and the one-handed catch in a game that the Giants lost. So that was very peak Patriots hate is what I was getting at that time, especially in the backdrop of with the backdrop of Deflategate, leading into that Super Bowl and subsequently afterwards. And, little did we know for the next 2 years after that point. So, great moment. And I think it's worthy of one more play to make up for my muted mic.
Second and goal. Baldwin sets up on the left. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Unreal indeed, Mike. So That was 6 years ago, and what do you know? 6 years later, Tom Brady's getting ready to go back to another Super Bowl. Surprise, surprise, Mike. Mr. Super Bowl himself. That's right. That's the nickname. Folks out there, if you're listening, use it. Hammer at home. That's the nickname. Because why not? He's going to his 10th
Absolutely.
Super Bowl. He's Mr.
You know,
Super
I'm
Bowl.
I'm thinking this is a good opportunity for a hashtag. I think hashtag Mr. Super Bowl.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
I like it a lot.
Well, I mean, think about it. Mr. October. That's a nickname, right? This is essentially the same thing.
Yep.
We could say Mr. February, but
Yep.
I like Mr. Super Bowl better because, again, when you boil down Tom Brady's career, it's the Super Bowl. That's his legacy is the Super Bowl, which, I think, maybe you could have made a case, several years ago that, other players were defined by that, but, Tom Brady's rewritten that. I mean, he's going to his 10th. That's twice as many as John Elway, who's considered one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. If he wins his 7th, that's 3 more than Joe Montana, who had the most, up until 6 years ago today. He was tied with Terry Bradshaw, and that was it. It was those two in a very exclusive club. Then, hey, here comes Tom Brady. I'm going to win my 4th, but you know what? I'm also going to win, again, assuming he wins on Sunday, 3 more and go to 5 more. So it's silly how synonymous Tom Brady is with Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I mean,
it really is.
Winning and losing at this point is moot. I mean, he's already won more than anyone else. So whether he wins or loses this game, it's really just about his legacy as being Mr. Super Bowl. I mean, it's what it is.
Exactly. But just remember, Ian, he's been carried to all of them. So,
yes.
That doesn't really matter. The fact that 10 or whatever, it's always somebody else's. It's always the work of somebody else that got him to this point.
Oh, it's incredible.
Thing to remember.
I gotta give some of those Aaron Rodgers fans credit out there, because despite yet another coming up short appearance in the NFC Championship game, they're resolved enough to continue the Rodgers is greater or better than Tom Brady debate, and it's just foolish. And if anyone follows me on Twitter at IGLEN31, I encourage you to do so, because it's fun. I have fun with it. People think I take it seriously. I really don't. It's because to me, and I said it yesterday, or I said it this morning. The second you say wins don't matter, your point is moot. I don't care anything else you have to say, because right then and there it tells me exactly where you're coming from. So anything else
you cease
say
to
after,
have
yeah,
one.
Exactly. You cease to have a point. I do not respect anything you say after the fact. I'm sorry if that hurts, and maybe that comes across as a bit arrogant on my part. But hey, you know what? I'm tired of wasting time with people who will sit there and disregard the very purpose of competition. I mean, the essence of competition is to win. And look, when you, just like any stat in football, people pretend like wins are their own like unique way of measuring things in football, when in reality it's just like any other statistic. It takes a lot of factors to put it together, but at the end of the day, hey, the quarterback's the most important player. And when you look at wins in a micro sense, okay, you look at individual wins game to game, you can find holes and pick holes. Of course you can. You can do that with anything. I mean, how many times do we go back and sit there and say, hey, how many of his touchdown passes were because of a deflection? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to sit there and pick apart people's touchdown passes. You just accept that, hey, if a player throws a lot of touchdown passes, they're usually pretty good. So when it comes to wins, it's the same exact thing. Like, you can sit there and dissect individual weak wins versus singular opponents, this, that, and the other, and find flaws and poke holes and this, that, and the other, and you can sound smart. But at the end of the day, you're missing the big picture, because it's not about week to week. It's about the sum of the total. It's about the big picture, because the value of wins is more accurate big picture-wise as opposed to week, because, yeah, of course, you can find games where one quarterback plays better than the other but still loses. I mean, you can find situations where a quarterback does everything in his repertoire to not throw a touchdown pass, but it still somehow ends up in the hands of a receiver, and that receiver ends up in the end zone. I mean, we can do this all day. We can pick apart every single quarterback, every single stat, every single everything. That's why at the end of the day, the sum of everything, the big picture, tells me, yes, wins matter. And I say it all the time. Go ahead and look at the top 10 quarterbacks in wins in NFL history. And you point to one quarterback that you think was bad or didn't deserve to be in that top 10, and I'll call you a liar. So, yeah, so that's kind of like my little spiel on quarterback wins, because it's getting to the point now where, you know, people are just so casually dismissing success as a factor in talent and a factor in how good a player is. It's like, oh no, he just happens. I saw it today. This was great. You know, people talk about Tom Brady as if he's Robert Horry. You know, that's essentially what it is. Oh, he's just there. He's just a part, just a cog. You know, just a little piece in a big machine. No, he's the biggest piece in a big machine, and he's shown so on two different teams. So.
Well, you know, bottom line, when you mentioned the sum of the whole, and when the sum of the whole doesn't include wins at the highest level, you have to pick something in order to be able to hang your hat on. And that's exactly what you're seeing. That is exactly what you're seeing. When you don't get the ultimate prize, you want to devalue those wins to make you feel better, because all of a sudden it's like, well, all right, we didn't win the Super Bowl, but the passer rating is higher. Oh, that'll make me feel better. We get a quarterback with a better passer rating. That to me is it's a weak argument. It's kind of a sad argument if you think about it. It really and truly is. Look, bottom line is you play to win the game. I've said this thousands of times. To quote Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. That's exactly what you're playing for. To negate the impact that quarterbacks have on those wins is to negate the level of quarterback play. If wins are not, important and they're not a quarterback statistic, then if your quarterback is not going to be able to win, what does that say about your quarterback? I mean, really, what does it say? If wins are inconsequential for the quarterback, then, really, I mean, what does that say about him? I don't know. To me, it's a mind-boggling, just gut-wrenching type of narrative, and it's going to continue for as long as Tom Brady continues to play, because you need to find something to be able to criticize the guy for. And even the criticisms don't make much sense, but they'll gain traction when you want people that are going to be around to drink the sand. And that's exactly what you're seeing.
And look, the reason I spend so much time engaging with folks on Twitter, for one, because I work at home and I have the ability to excuse that as work work behavior. And technically it kind of is, because here we are talking about it, and this is work. But the reason I do it is because there's a part of me that loves watching their circular logic. They're just hypocrisy. I mean, it's so funny to me to watch these kids. I mean, that's what it is. They're these kids. And I don't know how I never saw this one in particular that I saw this past week, but it was a TikTok video that kind of spurred the whole wins tweet that I just tweeted out yesterday. But it's funny that like anyone who can sound confident and spout off a bunch of nonsense, all with the prerequisite, with them saying wins don't matter to start with. I mean, and people will sit there and flock to it, be like, oh, this is, what is it, spitting facts or whatever, whatever the in lingo is. That's what they say. That's what they'll buy up. They'll eat it up. But in reality, that's not the case. So we'll sit here and get in arguments all the time. And I'll sit here and watch these folks go round and round and round saying, well, no, Aaron Rodgers is this, or Patrick Mahomes is that, or Peyton Manning is this. And I'm just sitting, I'm like, wait a minute. So you're judging Tom Brady based on this, but, not taking into account, like someone was saying, oh, well, Peyton Manning didn't go to an already made situation. And it's like, Peyton Manning went to a team that won a playoff game the year before with Tim Tebow. What are we talking about here? Like, I understand that the Bucs have a lot of talent on the roster, but to sit there and say that and disregard the actual facts of the situation, it's ridiculous. And then it's like, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, it's like, okay, like I think, and we've talked about this with John Sapichetti all the time, like I think we all like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, obviously, I speak, I guess, ill on him more so to defend some of the narrative around Tom Brady and not necessarily to criticize Aaron Rodgers. But, like, let's face it. I mean, he is what he is. He's a guy who has a great set of ability and talent and all that, and he's really maximized it to his ability. But he's not as good as Tom Brady. And the irony of his... So, for the most part, when you talk to someone, and this is what it was prior to this game, if you ask, okay, why is Aaron Rodgers better than Tom Brady? Well, the usual response is, well, he's more athletic, he can make all these throws, he can run, this, that, and the other. Well, I saw, one of the biggest criticisms of Aaron Rodgers was his unwillingness to run on a very key third down, which ultimately set up a field goal, which, and they never got the ball back on a wide open play. Now, would he have made it to end zone? I'm not going to say it was a guarantee. I'm not going to say it was an easy play. But when you sit there and tell me that the biggest advantage he has over Tom Brady and every other quarterback is his athleticism, and yet that athleticism doesn't show up not only in that situation, but he gets sacked more. So how good is that athleticism? How much does that do him? If people sit there and claim, and this isn't just in this game. I mean, his sack rate is, I think, around 2% higher than Tom Brady's in their career. And don't give me, he hasn't. No. He's had great offensive lines. Just like Brady, they've had their fair share of really good, mediocre, and great offensive lines. That's been the case. So, for all that supposed talent advantage that Aaron Rodgers had, there's opportunities in this game for him to use that to win this game, and it didn't happen. And it's not the first time. So save me the, he can run, that makes him better nonsense, because it's not true. Sorry, folks. It is what it is, and it played out before our very eyes this past Sunday, Mike. So let's end right there, because I'm feeling good. I'm George Costanza, Shrimp Store. I'm not
going to trample on that. I'm just going to let that sit, and I'm going to let it ride right out.
Yeah, we're going to ride out into the sunset and say, join us tomorrow. John's going to be joining us as he does every Tuesday, just about every Tuesday. We're going to talk some more Super Bowl. And then as we gear up throughout the week, we're obviously going to keep talking about the Super Bowl as we get closer and closer to, hopefully, in my opinion, win number 7 for Tom Brady. Folks, have a great day. Enjoy your Monday. Enjoy February. We'll talk to you tomorrow.